Today, dear friends, we'll be having a session with respect to maintenance and custody of children, together with the inputs of Dr. He'll share his experiences and psychological evaluation and counseling importance of these with respect to children as well as the couple. Now, the laws pertaining to maintenance has evolved and shaped up from time to time. The orders pertaining to maintenance are never final. Having said that, they can be varied, modified, or rescinded at any time due to any change in circumstance. These laws under which There are laws under which a woman can file for maintenance for herself and her children or child without filing for divorce. The first one of this kind will be under the Criminal Procedure Code under Section 125. Even a divorced wife can ask for maintenance under this section. The second one is under the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence. The first one, which I mentioned about CRPC, Criminal Procedure Court, can be filed in the family court. Under the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence, it can be filed with the Magistrates Court. It can be filed for maintenance as well as for protection orders with respect to maintenance, and economic abuse can be dealt with. The third one is with respect to the Hindu woman can file under the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. Here, where the parties have separated and they are not looking at divorce, the Hindu woman can file under this act for maintenance. The unmarried daughter will continue to get maintenance till she is independent financially. So this is the only act which provides for this. These are the three most important acts where the woman need not file for divorce, but she will have all the entitlements of maintenance. The Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act petition will be filed in the family court. Now, with respect to the other acts yesterday, which we went through, the Hindu Marriage Act. Here, first, the divorce petition is filed in the family court, and then an interim application is taken out together with a permanent alimony application in the main petition. Here, the Hindu Marriage Act, both the husband and the wife can ask for maintenance from each other. If there is no independent income to support herself or himself, and for expenses of litigation, they can ask for maintenance from the Honorable Court via filing the divorce and asking for maintenance and alimony. The second act which we yesterday dealt with was, today also I'll deal with this with respect to maintenance, the Special Marriage Act. Even here, the maintenance will have to be sought by way of an interim relief, but only by the woman, the wife, in the process of divorce. This will be also filed in the family court. The third is the Parsi Marriage Act. Now, in the Parsi Marriage Act, for alimony, the party will have to file a divorce proceeding in the Honorable High Court only, and husband and wife both are entitled to alimony as well as maintenance. Now, for maintenance only, independently, the Parsi parties will have to file in by way of Section 125 CRPC in family court. But if in the process of divorce, if maintenance and alimony is asked for, the husband and wife both can claim against each other in the Bombay High Court itself in the process of divorce. The fourth one will be now the Muslim women, how they can ask for maintenance. Even after divorce, the Muslim woman can ask for maintenance by way of the rights entitled, she's entitled under the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce 1986. The sixth one will be with respect to the Catholic Christians. In the process of divorce, the alimony, pending litigation, and permanent alimony both can be asked for from the husband in this process. So there are only two acts. This means to say that there are only two acts which entitle the husband also to ask for alimony and maintenance, which is the Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act and the Hindu Marriage Act. Now, this is with respect to maintenance. Now we come to the point of custody. The custody, visitation rights, and access. The family court, as well as the domestic violence magistrates court, wherever it's filed in domestic violence, the custody orders can be filed, and a separate petition can be filed with respect to this in the family court itself. Now, in the process of a custody petition or in the process of a divorce where custody and access are sought, this law has evolved by way of many judgments where the courts place importance to the paramount consideration of it being of the child and children, their welfare, interest, benefit, and well-being. This is of paramount importance to the courts. The courts look at it that way: as husband and wife, you all may fight, you all may do anything, but as parents, you have to look into the welfare, interest, benefit, and well-being of the child or the children. The matters pertaining to children are very sensitive, and a human approach is adopted by the courts and the counselors towards these matters. The court is generally in a parents patrie jurisdiction, which means to say the court acts as a parent here. Here too, the orders pertaining to access and custody are never final. Even if a custody has been granted to a spouse or joint custody is granted to both the parties, it may happen because of change of circumstance or because of the acts of the spouse or the divorced, the ex-spouse. The restoration of custody may happen to a certain spouse, or the custody may be shifted to one of the spouses. This is very important in whatever you sign with respect to a consent term, also in a petition for mutual consent or in a petition converted into mutual consent. It is very important to note that the parents will have to really behave themselves to continue the custody of the children. In case where parties are ad idem, or we can call it on the same page, and a joint custody is granted or a sole custody is granted, the courts have now designed a parenting plan. This parenting plan and enlists everything with respect to all the excess visitations, with respect to school schedules, etc., till the child majors. But this too can vary if the parties look into it, or one party looks into it, or the child looks into it. The wishes of the children are very important to a court. The court will interview the child. Generally, the court may take assistance of medical experts, like psychological evaluation. It can be psychotherapy, it can be plain counseling, and it can be many other things, or a psychiatrist's help. This can be taken, which we have today. Of course, Dr. Kingar will shed light on this. This basically, the parenting plan is made for the parents to behave in a particular way post deciding of the plan too. The child, if is an intelligent child, can make an intellectual preference. The courts may look into it differently with respect to one parent having sole custody or joint custody. The custody may be granted to the parent of the choice of the child too. Now, regarding these rival issues, generally two fighting parties will have always rival contentions, allegations, and issues. The court has to strike a balance between these, and claims which are made by the spouses, the court will have to discern and understand actually what is the state of their mind and how does it impact the children or the child. Here, the wishes of the child are considered by the counselors as well as the courts. In the protection of women against domestic violence, temporary orders for custody can be passed, and protection orders too can be passed. Now, in the Family Courts Act, there is a very specific mention with respect to counselors, social welfare, and medical experts where external help is sought with respect to psychological evaluation by a psychiatrist. A psychotherapist may also be taken by the courts. Here, children are, many Supreme Court judgments have mentioned that children are not chattel or property of the parents. Now, post divorce, too, sometimes a parent who has sole custody may see that the child is suffering, the child's welfare and well being is being affected, adversely affected, and the courts may have a relook at the situation, keeping in mind the paramount consideration being welfare of the child. In cases of joint custody, also, the parents may, or in sole custody too, one parent may poison the mind of the child, may behave in a way to alienate the child from the parent. Here, the custody and access and visitation rights, the courts will have to have a relook of the entire situation, which they do generally. Now, if a child is born to an Indian couple abroad, out in a foreign country, and the parents decide over there to take benefit of the foreign law, and both the parents have been living there fairly and the child is born there, they can choose the jurisdiction of the foreign court, and both parties may look into it and seek orders with respect to if they are separating or if they are taking a divorce. They can seek orders with respect to maintenance, custody, and access of the child too in the foreign courts. There are certain points where uh, there is a Hague Convention in the year 1980. It was formed with respect to civil aspects of international child abduction. India is not a signatory to this, though, but wherever any country is a signatory to this, the party where the party who has taken the child away from the country of being the United States, the the country and the child will be returned to the jurisdiction of the United States. This we are not a party to here. With respect to the wishes of the child and welfare and interest of the child, the courts are really, really very, very careful where they look into the security and the stability of the child. Here, an absent parent also plays a very huge role where sometimes the child is with one parent, maybe the mother or the father. After divorce, only 1 or 2 hours are granted with respect to in a week or in 15 days to the other parent who is the absent parent and who is not the custodian parent. The child will surely look to meeting with this parent, but this absent parent may try to poison the mind of the child, or the absent parent is more likable to the child because the parent has nothing to do. The parent comes, meets the child, gives gifts, and basically it just looks at spending some time. However, the custodial parent will have everything to do with maintaining the child, with day to day grooming the child, the education, the disciplining of the child, etc. Here, the balance will have to be where the child will have to understand, and we will have to make to understand, where the courts take a very a huge part they play, that they understand whether this child is looking at only the absent parent attraction or whether the child is really attracted to the parent emotionally and otherwise. This is how the entire system of child custody, access, and visitation rights and wishes of the child works. And basically, the welfare, well being, benefit, and interest of the child is of paramount importance to the courts as well as the counselors and the doctors if they are accessed to.
Very good evening to all of you. My talk is going to be broken into two parts. One is about psychological evaluation, and the other is going to focus on counseling and therapy. Now, I have dealt with a lot of cases where a couple is either contemplating divorce or wanting to take divorce. Many of them have been referred by legal luminaries. Some of them have been referred by some judges who were family members. And I have worked with many of those cases. Many times, couples have been referred where a husband or a wife had some issue or the other, and they undergo psych evaluation, and then we give reports, which are then produced in court, and the couple then fights it out. So I'll just like to share two cases very quickly over here. One case was of a couple of doctors who were unhappy in their marriage, and the wife felt that the husband was having multiple affairs, and so she wanted divorce. They went, applied for it, and they knew somebody who was in the judiciary, and they were kind of on paper said, okay, here's your separation. This is the property division. Children will go to the mother. This property will go to this one, that one. All that was put on paper, and the family trusted the person who was part of the judiciary and said that we'll make it work for you, but just go for therapy and counseling. The couple came, we worked with them, and today, after 25 years, they're still in a marriage. That's one case I remember where finally the wife kind of accepted the issues that were there in the marriage. The husband accepted his problems and his things. Both changed their behavior, and today they are they're a couple living happily together. They had two children, so the biggest concern in that case was for the couple was the impact on the two children, and that's the reason they kind of worked on it. So that's one success story. Recently, I had two lawyers who were again referred to me by a psychiatrist, and they were contemplating divorce. Her husband is a corporate lawyer. She works in a firm, and the wife felt that husband was not giving enough time. The husband was spending too much time at work. The husband an opportunity because he's a corporate lawyer, he will have drinks in the evenings with his friends, colleagues, or sometimes even clients, and the focus on the family or on the relationship was not that significant. They have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and so the focus again became that the child will be really traumatized, and the husband's thing was that my wife is putting too much of pressure on me. She expects me to do a lot of things which I'm willing to do. I love my daughter. I want to do it for the child, but I think it's a bit unfair on me to expect to do everything after putting 12 hours at work. And because he was a corporate lawyer, his sleep schedule was haywire and things like that. So he looked at alcohol as a way to cope up with his day-to-day life, Monday to Friday of intense work and weekends of kind of catching up and things like that. So I can go on and on and on, give you many such cases where we have worked with couples on these kind of problems. Now, I want to highlight two aspects over there. As I said, one is a role of psychological testing. What we need to understand is a marriage is a partnership between two people coming from diverse backgrounds, diverse upbringing, diverse probably socioeconomic status, educational backgrounds, emotional backgrounds in their own families, and so on and so forth. And each of us get influenced by the way we've been raised. So whatever family climate or family environment we were exposed to, or whatever we saw as role models, our own parents, our grandparents, our uncles, aunties, becomes our norm. So we look at the way my marriage should be. So if my dad brings flowers for my mom on a Saturday, I expect that my husband will do the same. Or if my father is a teetotaler, I expect that my husband will also be a teetotaler, and vice versa. If my mom is a brilliant cook, I would expect that my wife would be a brilliant cook. Or if my mother is helping my dad with everything including his work, I expect my wife to do that. So basically what we need to highlight over here or understand over here is we bring certain expectations to a relationship. Sometimes these expectations are verbalized when a couple gets a chance to speak to each other and state these expectations. Sometimes they're not. And these unspoken expectations in a marriage gradually lead the marriage to its downfall, where we don't speak about it. We keep on harboring a lot of anger and animosity, and gradually we become frustrated individuals and we start lashing out at each other. Now, what needs to be understood in any relationship is based on mutual respect. So, whenever either a husband or a wife loses this sense of decorum and respect for the partner, and anger outbursts or irritation or lack of intimacy comes in the way, that's when the marriage starts breaking. And that's when people start getting into a situation where they want a divorce as a way out. Now, before going into whether divorce is good or bad for the couple, for the children, I would like to say that I think currently one thing that really needs to be done is that the community or our culture or our country needs to ensure that people who are getting married, first of all, understand what marriage is, or what it entails, or what it requires, or what kind of situation we need to be dealing with. So there need to be clearly what we call as premarital counseling that should be initiated in the community. Different communities can have their own, depending on whatever is highlighted for that community. So I think that's one part I want to highlight. Second thing is what we need to understand. Personality is a key word which we use in psychology. So the personality of two people. So whether the female is a suspicious personality or the male is a suspicious personality, it's an aggressive person, narcissistic person, anxious person, depressed person, whatever. We need to understand the temperament of the couple and or the individual in the marriage and help them through it. Now, I think there's a very, very big role of psychological testing over here. So I would suggest to many of you who are budding practicing lawyers or who deal with such cases, wherever you feel the need, wherever you feel that this marriage can be saved. I know as a professional you are dealing with divorce, but your first human instinct should be to save the marriage and maybe refer them to a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist, because every marriage saved means that much less burden on the system. It doesn't mean that as a lawyer your work goes down, but it only means that really people who need to get through a divorce will get through a divorce. So I would highlight to you as lawyers also, and I know many good lawyers who also work as counselors, and they sit with their clients and explain to them that is it really that bad or what. So what we need to understand is that we need to first counsel these people who are coming to us as clients for a divorce and understand whether their situation is that bad. Uh, but don't force people to stay in a marriage when there's huge amount of stress or when there's huge amount of conflict, because at the end of it we find that increased stress, lower satisfaction, life satisfaction will lead to depression and so on and so forth. So we need to understand that only those marriages where we feel that there's a personality issue or there's an adjustment issue. Sometimes it is an adjustment disorder, or sometimes there is depression. A lot of people get angry because they're depressed. A lot of people get angry because they have underlying anxiety which has never been identified. So we need to understand the psychological aspects of the two participants or two people who come to you for a divorce before you guide them towards that. So there are psychological tests which can pick up exactly what has happened, and these tests have been developed over say 25 years of research, 30 years of research, and these are international tests. They really pick up what's happening. And if the couple decides to work on the marriage or decides to work on themselves, understands and addresses these issues, then it becomes a big saving grace. I also need to highlight that most of these reports, because they're standardized, they are valid, they are reliable, they're acceptable in courts of law. So if you produce this in a court of law, then they are definitely accepted. And if there's as we know, there's an underlying medical condition which is creating problems, that needs to be addressed first before we go on to handling the issue of divorce. The second thing that I want to highlight is after psychological testing, if we feel that this marriage really is unworkable or the couple has strongly made up their mind to divorce, then, and we have tried our best to save or conserve the marriage, then it's better that the couple goes its way, because it's found that people who may be forced to live together, the relationship can create more and more toxicity, and over a period of time it will become more and more verbally and physically abusive. That's one part of it. But contrarian research which says that people who decide to stay even in conflictual relationships after a period of 5 years may end up being happier. So it's not that if you stay in a conflictual relationship you are always going to be in a turmoil, and many people who stay in such relationships report that we are pretty okay and well adjusted now. So we need to really understand this part of it. Now, so what does divorce do to a couple? Divorce brings in feeling of loss, a lot of anger, confusion, is this right, is this wrong, anxiety, and a lot of other things. Also, research has proved that married people live longer than people who are divorced or separated. So even from a lifespan point of view, marriage seems to be a safeguard to increase our life. So what I want to highlight here is that trying to break a marriage is doing a good deed primarily. That's definitely the case. So what about children now? Do children really suffer in marriages? Sorry, in divorces. So children, if a divorce happens at the age of 1, we find that it has minimal impact on a child's mental health. But divorce, which happens at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, older children, seems to have more impact. Now, this is contrary to common sense. We feel that when there's a small child, he needs more nurturing, support, etc. And trying to save the marriage at a younger age is definitely better. But studies seem to be showing the opposite, because, and there's a reason for it. The reason is that when the child is older, the child is more aware of the environment, and the child starts questioning whether I have had a role to play in this divorce, or I have done something wrong, or I am somehow brought on this separation. So many children who are between the age of 5, 7, 8 end up probably feeling guilty or responsible in that sense. But a younger child who's not aware may and then is brought up in the single parent situation, will end up being in a more well-adjusted manner. Now, the other part that I want to highlight is, what are the consequences of the divorce? The consequences of the divorce first of all, there'll be less income, because the income is being used to run 2 houses, or there's a alimony or whatever. So primarily the income available, even if the child is going and staying with the mother or the father, the amount of money available is definitely bifurcated, just divided. So in the long run, the money available to the child is less. And this means less support, less time, etc. Because the parent is trying to run around, trying to make income, or trying to earn some money from the environment. So even if the child is with the mother has less time, because the alimony may not cover adequately, or may not be enough if there's a child around. The second part is the displaced parent. Now, whether the child chooses to go with the mother or the father, the displaced parent will go away and not really have a very significant role to play in the child's upbringing. Now, it's a clearly proven data that children need 2 parents. Okay, so the need for a mother and a father figure is very critical, because both bring different attributes or different aspects to the marital situation and to the parenting situation. So the home requires a mother and a father. So the best upbringing of a child is when there are 2 parents. So obviously when there's a single parent and the father is displaced, the father is living far away, or he's trying to earn money to run the house, he may not really spend that much of time with the child, and his involvement has reduced. Now, this is particularly bad for older children. When the child is 12, 13, 14, 15, the father going away can have a very strong impact on the teenage child. And they may get into alcohol or gambling or other kind of negative behavioral aspects. The third part which I want to highlight is, when a unit is there of a mother and father, one parent can be authoritarian, one can be more relaxed. So it could be the mother who's authoritarian, father is relaxed, or father who's authoritarian, the mother is relaxed. So there's a maintenance of balance in the family relationships and family dynamics. So when a divorce happens, this doesn't happen. So if the child goes with a relaxed parent, the child starts doing and pushing boundaries and doing whatever they feel like doing. The child goes with the authoritarian parent, the child is forced to listen, and there's tremendous pressure on the child, and the child will then become rebellious. So the child who was reasonably well adjusted can end up becoming more rebellious. Now, we also need to understand that the breakup of a marriage also leads to depression, anxiety in children. Now, there's a funny thing. Many children, many times I find that courts have referred to us children who are as young as 8, 9, and 10 for evaluation, because the children start showing different kinds of behaviors. Either at school, they lose interest in studies, they lose interest in talking to people, they start bedwetting, they start playing with violent things, they playing with knives and scissors. They talk about committing suicide. You'll be surprised that a lot of children also start talking about that I want to kill myself, I'm not happy, etc. So we need to understand that divorce can have a traumatic impact on children, and if we can help these couples, it's really good. But as I said, that if the marriage is extremely traumatic, then it's okay. Now, there's one case study where marriage may a divorce can actually have a negative impact, is where the parents are not seen to be fighting continuously, or if the conflicts are not very severe. In that case, the trauma seems to be much more uh, severe on children. Now, we are told that don't fight in front of your children, don't shout in front of your children, go and fight in the bedroom. Now, in such a scenario, what happens is the child has not seen parents fighting, or child has not seen parents arguing, or there's been no major showdowns. So contrary to common sense, where in a way it's really good that you don't fight in front of your children, but in those cases where the parents suddenly say that, okay, we are ending in a divorce, that's when it is worst for the children, because they suddenly cannot comprehend why my parents are deciding to divorce each other. So you need to understand that each case needs to be looked at in a very, very individualistic manner. There are no thumb rule fits all. There are no situation that everybody can be given the same standard prescriptions and it can be taken for granted. So we need to look at every individual, every couple, every child, and we need to give them whatever benefit or whatever help they require at a very, very individualistic level. Now, the sweet part is that a lot of studies have shown that almost 75 to 80% of children, even from divorced families, end up as well-adjusted adults with no lasting psychological or behavioral problems, and they end up achieving their education goals, career goals, and they also end up achieving the relationships, the kind of positivity that can help them to sustain their lives. So it's not all a dark cloud over there, but there are a lot of things that parents need to do. There are a lot of things that parents need to do, and we need to help when they're coping with this situation. One is encourage honesty. We need to talk to them honestly exactly what is going wrong. We feel that children don't understand, children are still childish. Oh, let's give them some time when they grow up. But the fact is that children observe everything that's going on around them, and they are actually imbibing their, though they may not verbalize many of these things, they're clearly aware of what is happening, and they process much of this stuff. Second thing is, many times children may be feeling anxious, or they may be feeling scared, or they may wonder what will happen to their future, or whether mommy and daddy are going to take care of me together, or will mommy get married again, or will daddy get married again. So there are a lot of underlying feelings about what's going to happen in the future, which we need to address. Third thing is, we need to legitimize. If a child is feeling anxious, don't say, "Arey kya yaar, humko to bahut alimony mila. Why are it? We got 1 crore in the bank." By saying that, we are saying that what you're feeling is not correct. So we need to first accept that this is what it is. Offer support. So sometimes children may need, you may have processed your divorce very well, but your child may not. I currently am seeing a 25-year-old boy whose mother left him when he was only 8 now, and he's been brought up by his father. Now his whole question is, why did my mother leave me and not take me? So he's not unhappy with his father. He's not unhappy that parents got divorced. His only question is, how come my own mother has left me and not bothered? And he said that when I turned 18, my mother came to me, "Beta, abhi tum bada ho gaya. I came to meet you." He said, "I don't need you now. Get out of my vision." So primarily, children may need support even if you have separated from a partner. and you need to be available to them. Children are also worried about their parents' health. So though the child may be taken care by one parent, he or she is worried about the other parent's well-being. So if you keep in touch with them and tell them I'm doing okay, that's very, very important. The last point I want to say is that in our country, for some reason or the other, we do not highlight the mental health aspect. I think even in courts or even our day-to-day life, we don't focus on the importance of mental health. I want to say over here that whenever it is required in any form, let us not look at seeking mental health as a stigma or something which only crazy people do or something you do only when things are really out of hand. If people seek this mental health, like I gave you the two examples at the beginning, you can definitely solve the problems. Coming to the story of the advocate whose marriage was on the rocks, what I want to say is he has given up drinking totally for the last 8 months only through counseling. He has worked on himself. He has tried to come home early and try to spend more time with his wife, etc. He has basically started switching off his phone when not required. So he has basically made certain changes in his lifestyle. His own wife has also started working on herself, and she's been taught or she's been counseled rather, how to be less critical, how to be more supportive, how to be more accepting, so on and so forth. So primarily what I want to say over here is that professionals from our field, mental health, whether it's a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist, we can definitely help. And trust me, the only problem is that it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, but we are able to bring a lot of these cases which otherwise would end up in a messy place to fruition.
Dr. Kingar, please recommend a few good books or courses for advocates interested in learning psychology. Thank you.
So I think there are a lot of books, basic books on counseling. So what I would suggest is you can order online. There are many books which can be used. So instead of giving you specific names, you can just pick up. There are basic tips on counseling techniques. So there are certain primary basic courses which you can enroll for. So there are certain online courses also available. You can look it up. But what I would like to say here is that primarily anybody who's interested in working with human beings has to understand the importance of counseling. And so there are if you really want, maybe I can send it by WhatsApp a few specific books. Often I don't remember, but you'll get books on counseling techniques, psychotherapy techniques, and psychological evaluation. So if you read up some of these books, they'll help you a lot.
What complications do children get after 5, 10, 15 years of separation? And what issues they get of parental divorce when they become adults?
So I think any child who, first of all, experiences divorce, emotionally it goes through a turmoil. Now we must understand that in our country, anyway, we are all struggling a lot. So we are we are all fighting for basic resources, right? So already, I think our lives are pretty tough in India, if I look at it. And so the separation and this whole issue of divorce and struggling in court and things like that, that's one part of it. Second is the stigma factor. I mean, even to date, I have seen a lot of clients who told me, okay, they made fun of me, or my friend made fun of me, or people stopped playing with me and things like that. So a lot of kids struggle with the stigma aspect of it. The third is the blaming, self-blame. So I end up blaming myself that I'm born in this family. What was the reason that, they couldn't get along or they couldn't make adjustments? So there's a lot of self-blame, a lot of anger which builds up, and a lot of anxiety about the future. So many times children feel that they will be the victims of this fight between two adults. The fourth is loss of faith in relationships. So we all, human beings have a basic social need. You need to connect with people, you need to have friends, you need to have a social circle, you need to be able to sit down and let your hair down where you can be yourself. So this fact that, when you start feeling guilty, or you start feeling that you are somewhere like a freak, or there's something wrong with you, what you do is you isolate yourself from society. And when you isolate yourself from society, you isolate yourself from social support or from this feeling that people care for me. You are actually internally feeling that nobody cares. My own family doesn't care. And now when you isolate yourself, you feel my parents didn't care, my friends don't care, my teachers don't care, the world doesn't care. And with this whole feeling of nobody cares, a lot of anger and angst builds up. And that's when it leads to depression and things like that. Some of them can become psychotic, where we find that many of them may need long-term rehabilitative process. Some of them can go into alcohol and drug abuse. Some of them can become serial psychopaths, where they will randomly get into relationships, fight with the person, whoever. If they blame the mother, they will become hostile towards women. If they blame the father, they'll kind of get into relationships where they do a lot of unnecessary stuff. So what it extracts is a lot of intense psychological damage. So I would suggest that, yeah, definitely maybe courts should mandate, or people like this, maybe as a organization, you all can do it, that children of such cases are followed up and some kind of work can be done where. So what I want to highlight here is that if the help is given at an early age, if we identify that a child at 8, 9, 10 is having issues and we help him at that age, the response and the resolution is much faster. But if we wait till he becomes 21 and then we address his problem, why your parents fought, by that time the things have got solidified and he feels, "Ke, chhodna, I don't want to talk about it." So I think these are some aspects. We need to problems when they are occurring. That's the way to look at it.
Many times we see that though the couple wants to work out a relationship, family members are the ones driving a wedge. How do you deal with this situation?
Very interesting, very interesting. Uh, so my way of answering this would be, your family has spent crores on your wedding. Okay. So they are stakeholders. They feel that I have spent money on my child's wedding and I'm still a parent and I know better than you. I will tell you what to do. Now, I think this is again a cultural, socio-cultural aspect. I think in India, people should choose to marry when they have their own money and when they're standing on their own feet and have a wedding at their own cost. Then probably parents will stop interfering. You cannot say that I will have you spend for my wedding, but I will not have you say anything in my divorce petition. Okay, so parents are going to interfere, because just like you had a gala time at the wedding, they want to have a gala time at your divorce. So I mean it as a joke, but please take it in the right context. So parents will definitely have a role to play over here, because they feel connected to us, they care for us. So one aspect is every parent wants to take care of the child, so they don't treat us like an adult. So if you prove that you're an adult and you feel that your relationship is worth saving, it probably means that you'll have to stand up against your parents and tell them that this is what I think. Now, again, our culture does not teach us to be individualistic. Believe that conformity is the way forward, right? So if you have a different take, you shut up and keep quiet. So my point is, there are multiple operational factors, but if you really feel that your marriage is worth saving, I would suggest that the couple should make best effort that they can to save the marriage, because the cost of not saving marriage is divorce, and divorce is very expensive in this country. And also that you're going to be alone, or you'll have to marry somebody else. So the adjustment that you have to make with one partner or one spouse can get complicated, and you're always looked at with suspicion. When you go into the marriage market, people always ask you, "Bhai, pehla shadi kyun toota tha tumhara?" Nobody, and you say, "Ke mere mummy daddy ne tod diya," nobody going to believe you. My answer here is that please try your best to save your marriage.
A final year student is asking the question that he's planning to pursue a further education in the field of psychology. Can you please enlighten him about the approach?
So he'll have to get a basic graduate degree in psychology. He can do an online degree probably. And then he needs to do a postgraduate. So the minimum requirement here is postgraduate. So he will need to have a degree, graduate degree, and probably get into a postgraduate degree thereafter. So there are certain online universities which offer you a graduate degree, which are legally recognized. So I don't know whether the person's from India or from somewhere else, but my point is that you have to get a graduate degree, And once you have a basic degree in psychology, you need to do, if you're doing counseling, then you need to specialize in counseling psychology. And that, so it's about a postgraduate degree in psychology is 2 years. And before that, you need to get some basic graduate degree.
Under Hindu Marriage Act, is husband also eligible for alimony?
Under the Hindu Marriage Act and Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act, husband is eligible for maintenance as well as alimony.
Can the wife claim a share in the matrimonial home, which is owned by the father-in-law? And can she also claim share in the properties owned by the father-in-law?
If this is a joint family, basically she has a right to stay over there, to reside over there. But if it is a joint family property, declared as a joint family property where the husband is a member, then she can claim her rights.
Now, can a woman claim maintenance if she's separated from her husband for 25 years? Can her daughter also claim maintenance if she's 23 years of age?
Yes, she is unmarried, and if she is financially not independent, a Hindu, then she can claim maintenance. The daughter can, and the wife can claim under, she is divorced, you said, na?
Yes.
She can claim under the section 125 of the CRPC, where a divorced woman has a right to claim maintenance.
Can custody and maintenance be claimed simultaneously in DV and divorce proceedings?
Yes.
Or different orders have to be passed by different courts?
No, it can be simultaneous. Supposing a woman has filed under the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence for custody as well as for the maintenance. And if she decides to file for divorce, in the divorce proceedings also she can claim maintenance. And these two, then whichever order is passed first, you'll have to share it with the other court. And then additional maintenance, if required, will be passed.
What are the economic aspect of cruelty as a ground for divorce?
Economic aspect? I didn't follow.
Yesterday you talked about cruelty, and one of the grounds, there were several grounds. So is economics or economical setback a ground for cruelty?
No, this is a mix up of these are two different aspects. Cruelty is a ground for divorce under the Hindu Marriage Act. Supposing we take the Hindu Marriage Act. Abuse is the word used under the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence. So there are 4 abuses, which I had said, where economic abuse is one of them, which is again comes to maintenance.
If any of the spouse gets to know later on, after a child is born, that there has been a fraud in the marriage, how can, what is the kind of protection the child and the spouse gets? And what about custody?
It depends on the severity of the fraud, and if there is proof of it and she has come to know now, she can file under the, if she is a Hindu, under the Hindu Marriage Act, with respect to fraud, she can file a petition.
Another question is, if the husband wants a divorce and the wife does not, can there be a judicial, and there is a judicial separation?
Yes.
The child is with the mother. The husband files a case of custody. So is there anywhere where the child is handed back? Presumably it's a male child, is handed to the father after a gap of 7-8 years or something?
It depends. If the court is satisfied that the child's security, stability, welfare, well-being, interest and benefit, which is of paramount consideration, importance for the court, is not looked into by the custodian parent, then it can be with the father or with the other parent, whensoever.
Another question is, very often if the husband and wife are not getting along, the husband files for a divorce, the wife is not giving him the divorce. It happens that the husband changes his religion from Hindu to Muslim. What is the consequence?
Divorce is a matter of course. He has already filed for divorce. One point where the woman can also file for divorce, or later on look into it, where she will file a counterclaim saying that he has changed his religion, comes to the point that both of them want a divorce, the ground is already made. That can be possible.
Which is a better law to seek a divorce, UAE law or Hindu law? The person and his wife are separated for 2 years, and they want to file for a divorce.
So I presume they are Indian
I
residents.
presume they are Indian. It's not given here in this questionnaire, but I presume they were married in India, but currently residing in the UAE.
UAE has a faster way of doing this divorce procedure. It's very fast over there, but there then they will have to follow the laws over there. If both agree to the submit to the jurisdiction of that court, it is fine enough. Otherwise, they'll have to initiate proceedings in India.
The next question is, Madam, I want to know whether a child is entitled for maintenance from family court as well as matrimonial court, and what is the age limit to claim from her father?
If she is a girl, daughter,
I presume yes.
yes, then till she is unmarried and till she is finally financially independent, she can claim maintenance.
And in
From
case if it's a male child?
if it's a male child, till he majors, till the age of 18.
Okay. Another question is, that the husband lives in a foreign country and the wife lives in India. What are the ways in which they can divorce if the husband is not willing to come to India?
The woman can file for divorce over here in India and
Yes.
serve a petition by way of email. There are many ways to send it through the embassy, etc. And by way of video conferencing, the party can come. They need not come physically. He need not come physically. The party can proceed by way of divorce through video conferencing also, or in a power of attorney holder also.
Please throw light on restitution of conjugal rights. Can it be enforced when a man or woman does not want to cohabit with the man or a woman? Does it serve any purpose in today's social strata?
I would say no, even if a person files for restitution of conjugal rights, a decree is passed, suppose for restitution of conjugal rights, the order is decree is served on the other side doesn't come to reside. The decree has no value. Nothing can be done about it. Rather, the other party can file for divorce based on the fact that a decree for restitution is passed, but 1 year they have not stayed together after the passing of decree, and that would be a major ground for divorce.
What are the parameters the court would use to balance out the woes of a man who has to pay interim maintenance and child support?
No, you're breaking. You're breaking.
Sure. What are the parameters the court would use to balance out the woes of a man who has to pay interim maintenance and child support after his aged parents under the law for senior citizen? So presumably he's got to look after his aged parents who are senior citizen, and he also has to pay maintenance to his wife and child support. So is there some kind of formula the courts use, or what is the kind of balancing interest they apply?
Sure, the courts look into it in that way, that whether the party who is asked to pay maintenance has dependents. Now, if dependents are there, which is the parents, which we are saying senior citizens, the court will surely look into it and then grant the maintenance accordingly.
Okay. What happens if a husband is staying abroad and he fails to pay maintenance as directed by the family court? What is their recourse?
It's through the embassy. You can serve a notice. You can serve a notice through the police. You can issue red corner notice. There are very many ways of doing this. Once you have to serve it to him, and if he fails to pay, there are many ways. He can be stopped from coming to India. In fact, the other country where his properties can be looked into and shown to the court over here, and they can't be attached though, but through the embassy many things are possible, and a red corner notice, which I told you, which he has to pay.
Nowadays, due to uncertain and long years of divorce process in India, trend is increasing about people not waiting for the divorce proceedings to finish and wanting to get married without retaining proof of the previous marriage. Um,
That's a
is this
fraud.
happening? Is this happening, and what is the recourse?
No, basically, which I shared yesterday also, if it's a contested matter, there is always a possibility with respect to counseling in between the proceedings and converting the contested petition into a mutual consent one. So the
Okay.
board of contention where it is, if it's your petition, you can surely push it and let the hearing take place as soon as possible because the courts are ready to do it. The parties should be ready to actually take it forward.
There are countries where once the partners file a divorce petition, the child is taken by the NGO or government authorities to see to the child to see that the child is not poisoned by the custodian parent, or the custodian parent doesn't use it as to settle scores with the other spouse. Um, is this happening, and what is the solution to this?
The kind of counseling that is done is, where children are spoken to and largely asked which parent you would prefer to stay with or what do you think and so on. But largely, I don't think there's any formal, thing that, don't listen to one parent or don't get biased. So I don't think there are any consequences if one parent does that. So primarily, there are definitely certain situations where
Mhm.
one parent may use the other child, may use the child as a bait to kind of get back at the other
Yes.
partner. So yeah, I think this is a pretty well-known instance, and
Yes.
I think this is where I was talking about the maturity of the people who are getting into a marriage. So sometimes that vindictiveness of the personality. So that's why I said that psychological assessment. So if people are contesting, and so psychological assessment will give us a clue that this parent can possibly, this person can possibly be vindictive and take it out. And many times they may prevent access or kind of keep on bad mouthing the other parent, not realizing that to the child, both parents are equally important. See, to a
Correct.
child, mother and father may have had issues, but they have received love from both parents. So
Correct.
primarily, the child gets torn as to whom do I believe, and they may end up developing trust issues where they don't want to get into relationships. So yeah, it's extremely damaging.
If a son is marrying against wishes of the parents to a person who the parents consider not the right girl, and they see that there could be chances of divorce further down in life, what are the precautions parents should be taking to safeguarding property which is held by the parents? I presume it's a joint family, they living together.
So before marriage, we are thinking of divorce, and before anything, in Gujarati we have so many sayings with respect to this that it is that before anything can happen, you start thinking that the world is coming to an end. Any which way, in this precaution wise means it's like supposing the parents have put some money in the name of the son and the son is willing to give it back to them, it's a valid thing that they may say, okay, I will not share any financial burden. If you want to get married to this woman, both of y'all stay. We are giving you this house. Y'all stay how you want to. There are many families who have done that. And gradually, then they see that the girl, we had a different impression, but the girl is much better than what we thought. This boy is stupid. Perhaps it may happen that way.
So, if I may add over here, I had somebody I know whose father thought that this girl is after the money and all. So, what they did was they told the son, get out of our house, go and live in a rented accommodation. We will pay you a salary from the family business. You are no longer a partner or a director over here. And if your marriage survives 2 years, the first 2 years, we'll get you back. And unfortunately the marriage actually broke within a year of marriage. I agree with her that you cannot know in advance that something is going to work or not work, but I think that's exactly where I said that parents don't have to bring up their children to be adults, and decisions have to be based on certain amount of understanding and sensibility rather than randomness.
Okay. Nitya, there is a question of Parsi Marriage Act for you.
Yeah.
So, if a marriage is registered under the Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act, and the couple then wishes to get it registered under Special Marriage Act, is that possible?
There are many who do it. Both parties are Parsis. Then also they want to register under Special Marriage Act. For what reason? But this is
This is just a question raised by the lady. So she's just put this question. She's not given the reason.
no. I don't think any Parsi would do that for a reason that they want to be in the community itself. If it is one Parsi is getting married to somebody else who is not a Parsi, then they get it registered under the Special Marriage Act.
Okay.
Generally, that is the case.
And in a Parsi marriage, if there is unavailability of jury, what
Mhm.
happens?
During the divorce proceedings, if jury is not there, not availability, it will be shifted to the next session. The sessions of Parsi Marriage Act and Marriage and Divorce Act, usually in the Parsi Chief
Yes.
Metropolitan Magistrates Court, are held only once in 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And
think those
notice
are.
is given. 1 month notice is given. So the delegates can come in, and there is a chit system. So from that, randomly they'll pick up chits. Those people who have volunteered, they will give their names, and the jury will be picked up from those chit system, which still prevail.